Jamia Millia Islamia. Today we are joined by Krishna Khurusane, an architect at Bhumiputra Architecture and an AOA Mumbai alumnus. Coming from a small village in central Maharashtra, Krishna's work is deeply informed by lived realities and questions the idea of architecture as a neutral or isolated object. His award winning thesis, Prescription of Parity, explores architecture as a social tool addressing the menstrual and postpartum exile of women in tribal communities. Rather than proposing erasure, the project focuses on dignity, care, coexistence, and rearticulating spaces. And we are looking forward today to hearing Krishna share his journey and the thinking behind this work. So please join me in welcoming Krishna. Over this to you.
Yeah, Hi Dikshat for that wonderful introduction. Uh, I think, yeah, you can start with my presentation. I had actually like a separate PPT prepared for you guys, but because of some technical glitches, I won't be able to present that. But I have a version which I presented at my COA National Awards jury, so it would be like a first-hand look at the same presentation. So that would also be a good experience for all of you. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So shall I start the share
yeah.
screen? Okay, sure. Uh, just a second. Is it visible, everyone?
Yeah,
Okay.
but your other window is also open. Huh. Yes, so can I start?
Yeah, sure. Please start.
Yeah. So my project is titled Prescriptions for Parity because basically I was looking at embedding some kind of gender parity into the context that I was looking at. And I call it as like an attempt to understand the nuances of social architecture because like you uh, addressing a social cause through a built insert is, I think, a very complex attempt, first of all, to do it. So it's always an attempt. How it's about addressing it rather than solving it. Yeah. So next slide. Can we go to the next slide?
Just a second. I guess it's not working.
Yeah, I think you have to accept
Is it
now.
visible?
Yeah, it's visible.
Slide?
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so basically, as Diksha told you guys that I come from, like I was born in a small village. I was brought up in a small town. So, growing up in that context, you constantly see that society does not prescribe the same thing for men and women. And when I joined architecture college, and as we study humanities, as we go to different settlements and document, we realize that the built environment is also kind of reinforcing these gender-based disparity because like the kind of access that men have to like spaces in a city, in a village, the chalks, the roads, in same way women don't have access to these spaces, neither they do have access to social spaces outside their house. So that this is where basically the project started in sort of addressing the lack of social spaces for women. And next slide. Women in a rural context. Yeah, so basically my initial inquiry started into like gendered spaces in a rural context which are specific to women. So let's say temples, let's say river ghats, or like community water taps, or water collecting routes. And as I delved deeper into this research, I realized that the reality was much more horrifying. Next slide. When I came across the idea of period huts. Next slide. So a period hut is very much a part of the built environment. In many tribal communities, it is basically a structure that is used to isolate girls or women going through menstruation or postpartum bleeding. So postpartum bleeding is basically once a woman gives birth to a baby, there's a certain about 14 to 15-day period where they are still bleeding, and during that period also, like, the mother along with the baby is also expected to isolate in these structures outside the community, outside the settlement, because this bleeding is considered impure. Next slide. And it is being practiced in some communities in Nepal, then in some South Indian tribes, and also in the uh, tribe called Madhya in the central forest region of India called Dandakaranya, which part of which is also falls in Gadchiroli district of eastern Maharashtra, which is where my research was based on. Next slide. Yeah, so this is basically the context with respect to the Indian subcontinent, where all these practices are still happening. Next slide. So here, women are expected to isolate in structures like these. Next slide. Right from the onset of their first period, which could be at the age of 9, 10, 12. Next slide. Until menopause, which is the last period. Next slide. In extremely horrifying conditions where there's no access to basic facilities such as electricity, water, or any sort of hygiene. Next slide. Yeah, so this is basically the condition of this is first-hand documented photos that I did during my field visit to Gadchiroli. Next slide. And then obviously, while doing my field study, I talked to the community, I talked to men, I talked to women, and I understood that so these structures have been prevalent since the said tribe were shifting cultivators. So back then the settlement used to shift from one place to another, and women did not have the means to manage menstrual blood flow. So that's why these structures kind of existed, which were built very similar to the houses of the community, which is like mud and natural materials. And women would be expected to rest in these structures. And back then, older ladies from the village would take care of the women and the infants who are isolating in these villages. Next slide. But this understanding came from when I went back to my desk and I studied some books regarding these tribes, and the understanding came from that research. But when I interviewed the community was basically unaware of why were they even doing this practice. The prevailing narrative was that it has been going on since generations, and if women stay at their house during this period, it would bring some ill to the family. And that's why. And then the basic idea that women get rest was somehow prevailing within the men. Next slide. But when I talked to women, they said that rest in such conditions is extremely impossible. In fact, they actively suffer from major physical and mental issues, especially young girls who are going there, who have to go there for the first time. Next slide. So today, like, I have been telling this story for the end time. Like, I've told it since, like, when the first time I came across this issue, I've been pitching it to I've been talking about it to my professors or to, like, during cross juries. And the question that was always came back to me was, okay, what can an architect do in this situation? My thesis guide, she was also a lot interested in what architecture can socially how can architecture socially help. So there were certain readings that she made me do during this period. One book which I had put in my slides was which I had studied extensively during my research was House Forms and Culture by Amos Rapoport. So in that book, the researcher, so he basically has sort of traced back and studied how the first civilization, how the first settlements forms, and there he tells us about how the first house that was ever built, or the first settlement that was ever built, was informed by climate, but more than that, by the socio-cultural factors of the said community, by factors such as family size, community size, how kinship's system works, and most importantly, how belief systems of the community work. So basically, the way humans have been building their houses or building their communities has been very much been informed by the belief systems and the context and the culture and so many things. Now, in today's age with globalization and everything, we've been experiencing like Xerox copy buildings, but that's not how it was. And then the context that I'm dealing with, the tribal community that I was dealing with, was also in such a, like, it is in a way connected to the mainstream civilization, but also it is very much desolate also. So it is very much in the primitive stage. So this Patrick Schumacher's quote really comes to me, where he says that the built environment is a plane of inscription that seems to build and stabilize social structures. So next slide. So through the further slides, this is just me breaking down the anatomy of a typical tribal settlement, the community, the Madhya tribe that I was researching into. So this is just me breaking down the anatomy of their village. So basically, the Madhyas lived in like very in a very tightly knit community where the houses are built with natural materials. The fences of their houses are built with twigs. So it's really like a it's really what do you say? It's really permeable. The settlement, one how one house is connected to the other, how the house is connected to the street, is really permeable. But can girls cross these fences? So yes, they do cross these fences, but where they are at the community well, or they are at the neighborhood field, where they are essentially completing the tasks that are given to them, which are like basically patriarchally prescribed domestic roles. Next slide. While men continue to dominate the main chalks, the main streets, the panchayat buildings, and effectively the leadership of these communities. Next slide. While healthcare infrastructure, or say maternity houses, which are important caregiving spaces to women, are often overlooked by men, where they don't even go near these spaces, and they remain largely unaware of the biological realities of women. And then bus stops, which basically communicate to the town or the city, are not frequented by women as much. Next slide. Instead, the community still continues this practice of Kurmagar, which is isolating young girls and women because of the ingrained socio-cultural beliefs. Next slide. So basically, this is how the overall settlement still today, like the built form of the settlement, is actively contributing to gender-based disparities. Next slide. And then a network of such a built environment, where similar, like if you see these small villages that occur, that are there in this context, it's a network of this built environment that is built with the same ethos, which makes these gender-based disparities a norm, and which is actively even reinforced by the infrastructure that government has built, like the hospitals, where maternity wards, men are not seen there. It's expected that the mother of the girl who will be giving birth is expected to look after her, and her husband, the father of the child being born, is completely out of the picture. And even the smaller healthcare infrastructure that is spread across in these villages is contributing to that disparity. Next slide. So can altering this built environment bring about a change? Well, that's very difficult, but the idea is to work towards transition. Next slide. So, but what to build? That was the most important question. And then, if when you hear of something like this for the first time, then the first thought is that, oh, you need to eradicate this idea of the period hut, of idea of this isolation. But it's culturally and socially important to the community, so you can't just do that. So how exactly do you intervene? I imagined like a lot of scenarios, like can I try some inverted scenarios? But nothing worked. Next slide. So to bring about, I needed a very practical and effective framework that could be very palatable to the community also. So I started with the framework that UNESCO has set up to deal with menstrual hygiene management and some usage globally. So they work across these 6 pillars. First, one of which is bringing about positive social norms, then spreading knowledge regarding menstrual and reproductive healthcare, then bringing water sanitation hygiene to excluded communities, then menstrual hygiene management material, which is everything that a woman needs to take care of herself during menstruation or postpartum period, then privacy, and then infrastructure for disposal of these materials. And in my particular case, in the particular context that I was dealing with, the pillars of positive social norms and knowledge were very important, because this is where it was absolutely lacking in the community. Next slide. So the problem was identified as information poverty and ignorance. Next slide. Next. Yeah, and men were identified as equal stakeholders in the overall issue, and the strategy of bringing about uh, um, the strategy adopted was to bring about like a proper infrastructure along with culturally lucrative intervention which is suitable for the which is palatable to the tribe. Next slide. Where the outputs would be community's interest, then conversation and men's involvement to have the outcome of increased awareness, critical thinking, and a positive outlook. And wherein next, the main desired impact is increased knowledge, capacity building, sensitization, and the eventual eradication of such practices. Next slide. And but where to intervene, that was also a question I had during my field research. I had during my field research, I had visited three such settlements where these practices were being carried out. Then I had visited the local health center, which was at this village called Karwafa, which was at the center of which served about 43 villages in the vicinity. So where to intervene exactly? Do I intervene with the village? Do I intervene with the healthcare center? Do I intervene with the period huts? So to understand that, I sort of came up with this matrix where I was trying to understand how all these six pillars that UNESCO had suggested, how can I connect them to uh, each of the points that I wanted to address. And I realized that like one single intervention would never work in this case. Next slide. So across this network of this built environment that I was talking about, I decided to intervene at three different levels. Next. First one would be at the primary healthcare center, which, like I told, addresses 43 villages in the vicinity, where the primary healthcare center would be reframed to incorporate a parenting ward instead of a maternity ward, which also brings in fathers. And then it also is a maternity waiting home, which deals with the aspect of postpartum bleeding. Next slide. Then the second intervention would be at the village level, where I would go into detail into these interventions when I start further explaining it. And the third intervention would be Arogya Jatra, which is basically an awareness propagation, knowledge propagation, and sensitization unit, which would move across these villages and the larger context. Next slide. Yeah, and collectively, these three interventions, first one Unnati, which is at the village level, second one Arogya Ashraya, which is at the healthcare center level, and third Arogya Jatra, which is basically a health camp moving around this context, would collectively work towards making women's issues visible and inviting men to participate in those conversations. How do they do it? We'll go through in the further slides. Next slide. Yeah, so the first intervention is Unnati, the Women's House, which is basically a demonstration of the village level intervention. During my study, had gone to this village called Fulbodi, next slide, which had about a population of 500 to 600, out of which there were about 240 women. And they had 8 period huts. If you, in the drawing, if you can see the rooftops marked in red, those are the 8 period huts, which are essentially were spread across the periphery of the village. You can notice that all of them are located at the periphery of the village, because when a woman or a girl is isolating herself in one of these period huts, she is not allowed to enter into the village. She is not allowed to be seen in the village. She can access the forest, she cannot access the fields or any water related resources of the community. Next slide. Then the idea of this intervention was, okay, first of all, I cannot immediately go and tell this community that you cannot follow your custom. So the idea was, instead of these women being isolated, if by choice they still want to isolate, they could come together in this place, which would be a women's house, which would be attached to a health sub center, and would have a dignified space for these women. So that's why it is located in the center of the village. It is located, like you can see, right opposite the Gram Panchayat, right opposite the school, right next to the community hall. So it's very visible and it's very easily accessible to the community. Yeah, go to the next slide. And the build was essentially, so I came up, it had, the site had two roads on each of its sides, so I came up with this spine which would connect these two entry points, and then the units which are basically similar in scale to the houses of the settlement would be attached to this spine, and they could be built incrementally also, like a community project of this scale. We understand may not be built at once, so it would be incrementally built, and each unit, as you can see, the central spine, the central wall serves as a form aggregator to these units. Next slide. Yeah, so the first unit of this intervention is the local women's joint. So it is basically a shop by women for women. In the initial slides, when we were breaking down the disparities reinforced by the built environment, we understood that men have larger claim over the street. So this local women's joint essentially helps women get their deserved claim on the street. Next slide. Yeah, then the first, another adjoining unit to the main street is the local health unit. So it is basically in our government health infrastructure, every village, may how small it is, has certain health workers. One of them being the ASHA, one of them being the peer educators. So it would kind of serve as the office for these village health workers. In addition, it would have an Anganwadi to it, so that the women who are coming to access the women's house, they can leave their children there. And then it would also have an outreach space, so that the NGOs there are a lot of NGOs who are actively working in this region, trying to bring about a positive change in the community. They could host all their activities through this local health unit, and it would essentially serve as the what do you say, as the epicenter of healthcare awareness for the entire community, and even men would be invited in here. Next slide. Then I call this area the Emancipation Unit. It is the first courtyard of the women's house, and it is a private space where there's a library, there's a computer training facility, there's a small worship space, and there's a small observation tower also. So this is kind of a space that gives women opportunities to do activities beyond their traditionally prescribed roles. They could read, they could just loiter here, or they could learn, like the younger girls could teach the elder women a new skill, like that. Next slide. Then the core code of the women's unit was the rest unit, which is basically, like I said, if by choice women still want to isolate themselves or take rest during their period, or just whenever in general, they could come and use this facility. And here it is imagined that the courtyards, the smaller courtyards and the larger courtyards, would serve as interaction spaces for these women who were originally being isolated in like 8 different huts across the village, and there would be dialogue across generations. From younger girls would be able to conversate with older women and understand what they are going through. And or it's just imagine as a feminist utopian space where women just exist on their own in this safe space. Next slide. Then this is the local enterprise unit, which is attached to the women's house, which is basically so a lot of the economy of this entire region is based off of two things. One is agriculture, and second, all the people here, including the men and women, work with the government as Manarega laborers. And then there's been a lot of incentives from the government to start small scale industry. So this is just that scheme being attached to the women's house, such that the women's house, like the campus, becomes an important part of the village, and the choice of the enterprise is then again left to whatever the village wants. And then one public toilet is attached to the unit, which would I imagine be equipped with all the MHM related materials and will propagate better hygiene within the community. Next slide. So overall, the local unit with its like extremely blurred edge, and then the local health unit, the local enterprise unit, which serve the larger community, which serve the men also, would bring would bring visibility to the women who are using the women's house, and would serve as a conversation starter along the dignity that women need during this period. Next slide. Yeah, the architecture was basically a derivative of the context. So there's a lot of bamboo farming that happens in the region. All the architecture is built with mud. They use wattle and top, but I went with a little advancement of that, and I use CSCB bricks as the for the infill walls, and yeah, and then bamboo roofing finished in Mangalore tile and IPS. So yeah, next slide. There's some architectural detailing. I just skip through these. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, next. Yeah. Coming back, so that was the village level intervention. Then the next intervention is the Arogya Ashray, which is the primary health and wellness center. So one thing in this region, the maternal and infant mortality rate, basically the rate of women dying during labor or children dying right after birth is very high in this region. And one of the contributor is obviously this practice of menstrual and postpartum exile, and also the fact that most of the girls are married off at a very young age, and they become mothers also at very young age at 19, 20, 21. So it's a very those numbers are very high. So how to address that by building a better uh, a maternity healthcare infrastructure. This is what I've tried to do at this level, and also to bring about the people also believe in a lot of vaidiyas, and like that kind of beliefs also prevail in the community. So it was very important to build a health center which speaks to the community. Next slide. Yeah, so that's why the size. So this site is the Karwafa village, which is the largest village in the area. So there are about 4,000 people living in this village, and it is at the epicenter of the entire region. So the site that I chose in this village also had to be at the center of the village so that it could be very easily accessible. And the street along which it is abutting is the existing market of Karwafa. So I wanted to add an extension to it through the wellness center. Next slide. Yeah, so if you see abutting the road, I've created a series of shops which essentially continue the market and bring the health center to the core of the village. And I imagine that most of the shops in this that I've created in the forefront would be reserved for women entrepreneurs. Then unit by unit explanation I'll do in the further slides. Next slide. Yeah, so the first space for the hospital is a large public plaza, and attached to it, out of the first unit of the hospital, we have a canteen, and we have a chemist store, and we have a general store, which would very actively advertise and sell menstrual hygiene management and reproductive hygiene, healthcare related stuff. Uh, yeah, and then the first courtyard upon the entry, we have planted a mahua tree, which is very sacred to the entire community. And then even the public toilet of the health center is imagined as an equitable toilet where baby care and washing spaces are given common to men and women, and rather than putting them separately in only in the women's toilet. Next slide. Then the OPD is also designed as like in large as a space around a large open courtyard, and also that goes out and moves out into viewing deck, which looks towards the water reservoir, which was created because the site was essentially a low-lying land. It would flood during monsoon, so the character of the site was changed into a reservoir so that it could harvest rainwater, and the OPD basically looks out onto that reservoir. Next slide. Then these are the central spaces of the hospital. All of these are as per government, like the programming is as per what the Indian Health Code dictates. Just with the design, I've tried to elevate it a little where in the male and female wards, previous slide, yeah, stay on this slide. In the male and female, previous slide, yeah. Wherein the male and female ward, if you can see, each window gets each bed gets a separate window, and even the surgery theater, which is designed as per the latest healthcare standards, which has two delivery rooms, one surgery room. There's also a narrow courtyard, which brings a certain sense of calmness to the space. And then the discussion hall, which is also an outreach unit of the health facility, which would conduct talks and discussions or ASHA training programs or other healthcare worker training programs. so that they can go back to their villages and work actively there. Next slide. Yeah, this is the parenting home, which is the major plugin that I did in the entire healthcare center program. So like I told you earlier, that the Kurmagar is also used to isolate. So when a mother gives birth to a child, when they go back home, they are not allowed into their houses for the 14-day period during which the mother continues bleeding. Instead, they are expected to isolate themselves in the Kurmagar because that period is deemed impure. So instead of that, the maternity center itself can have an extension to it, where because of the custom, if the mother and the baby cannot go to their house, they stay under care at the hospital itself. But here, what I try to do, instead of just isolating the mother and the baby, I try to bring fathers into the picture by introducing the program of a father's dorm. So basically, it's traditionally that happens that when a girl is giving birth, it is expected that her mother comes and take care of it. But even if a father wants to come and be with his wife, in the Indian context, be with his wife during this period, the architecture of the healthcare centers or the architecture of maternity wards doesn't really enable that. So that's why this introduction of a father's dorm could help that way. And then even then, I have a parenting unit, if you can see, which is basically, you might have heard of Lama's classes, where parents are taught how to take care of their baby or how to take care of themselves during this period. So this is essentially that program which is being brought into the Indian context, where the health workers of the hospital help train fathers, create conversations with fathers, and make them involved in the entire prenatal and antenatal care. Next slide. And then this is the area of the ward where, okay, essentially not all fathers would accompany. So this area is for the mothers for whom their husbands are not accompanying, and they are all by themselves in the hospital. They are under care of the hospital staff, and there's a postnatal ward, there's a prenatal ward, there's neonatal care. And then essentially, if you could go back to the previous slide. Here, if you see in the parenting unit that I've added, the hospital's canteen is also located in the same area. The sonography ward is also located in the same area, so that all expectant parents or all the patients and visitors who are coming to these hospital could see that this is what is happening at the healthcare center facility. So it creates outreach. Yeah, next slide. N- Yeah. So largely the entire facility. So there's a water body, then there's a forest beyond that. If you must have seen in the site plan. So the site is very large. That's why I had the luxury of a very large site. That's why tried to bring in the component of a forest, of a water body, which are very important for the community, them being tribals. And then when the health center kind of sits in this context, when it sits as a continuation of the market, when it has links like the mahua tree, which is important for them, it helps them be more comfortable with the idea of visiting a healthcare center. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, so materiality and the basic idea of the architecture was same here, but just to add more durability, I had an RCC framework for the healthcare center facility because even the scale was larger, and the roof was similar. There was bamboo reinforcement, there's bamboo roofing framework finished in Bangalore type. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, this is the architectural detailing for the healthcare center. Yeah, next. Yeah. So while Unnati and Arogya Ashraya serves as active containers where healthcare infrastructure and healthcare services are brought to the community, there was also a need of a very active intervention, which very boldly talks about, uh, mm, which very boldly spreads knowledge and awareness. So that's when the idea of Arogya Jatra came in. Next slide. So Zatra or a village fair is basically an event where the entire community, regardless of gender or regardless of social class, comes together and celebrates something. So I wanted to fuse this idea with the idea of a health camp. So basically a vaccination drive which comes to the village, or an awareness camp that comes to the village. What if it is fashioned and built into this idea of Zatra or a temporal architecture that is very amusing. So, like if you have seen in foreign countries, there's a lot of temporal architecture, like large scale giant wheels and markets and all that, which are there for social recreation. What if that sort of ethos, that sort of the gene of that idea is of of amusing temporal architectures mixed with the idea of a health camp, and what happens when it is brought to a village. Next slide. So that is how I imagine Arogya Jatra. It's basically an event it's basically an health camp which is there to spread awareness about adolescent healthcare, reproductive healthcare, menstrual healthcare, all the topics which might be considered taboo in the context are provided to the community in sort of an amusing way through events and installations and rides. Next slide. Yeah, so we have adolescent orientation, then we have explaining of gender roles through play. Then I had at the center of it, I had put this gigantic installation of the period hut itself, where you go through these large walls while curiosity is being built up, and when you go inside, there's this scale model of the Kurmaghar, and you're surrounded by mirrors and large landscape, and you one like as a man, if you go inside, you experience the tension of it. Next slide. Then there were simulation stalls where you could simulate period pain or labor pain, or any sort of pain that women can experience, men can experience, which is related to their healthcare essentially. Next slide. uh, and then yeah, engagement through art stalls, engagement through stalls related to nutrition, so what kind of food one should eat. A nutrition related awareness is also brought into the community. And then there's his and her play, where a husband and wife participate together to understand compatibility. And then in the end, there's a right to reflect. Next slide. And then these are just so whenever I explain this idea, it seems so far-fetched, but so that's why I generated these some of these images through AI, where whatever I'm saying is then, like, when you imagine it and you can then see it, oh, this could actually happen, and like just maybe not at this scale, but like even as a small game which is brought to the village on an afternoon, and the men who are sitting under a tree in the village chalk just gather around and start understanding through play what a menstrual cycle is. Next slide. Next slide, Diksha. Yeah. Next slide. Yeah. So cumulatively, the project prescribes three visually striking yet rooted in human scale interventions, that these then become physical containers that afford spatial experiences where women's issues, needs, and aspirations are made visible. These spaces try to provide women with agency to follow their beliefs in a very dignified manner, along with access to information and dialogue, and to challenge any beliefs that are being forced upon them. And these interventions strive to become platforms where men are invited and enabled to understand, converse, and participate in the need for parity and care. And thus, blurring of gender roles sort of happens for equitable well being and and lastly, I want to say that cultures evolve, and like while these interventions may not have the ability to bring about that evolution, but they're definitely a step towards it. So, through simple articulation and organization, the project Prescriptions for Parity seeks to set a new order of parity for rural women. I mean, that was that's just something that I had written down for my jury, but yeah, it's good to close with that. Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you so much, Krishna. And just a second.
Uh, I think Diksha, you can keep on presenting the slide. Don't close it. I think
Okay.
we can just, yeah, we can just take questions and any comments anyone wants to say something or want to ask something from Krishna, they can ask.
Yeah, sure. You can either write it in the chat box or just unmute yourself and ask the questions.
Uh, Till then, I just say one thing I want to share with you all guys. So right now we are going to start at 9. So just Krishna message came ki he shared the photo of laptop got crashed, and the thing is ki despite he has made us specifically PPT for particularly for all of us, but somehow due to the laptop crash, he doesn't have that PPT, so he shared another PPT. But yeah, it's a really amazing work, Krishna. How you handle the situation, it's really amazing. Matlab, somewhere you didn't panic at all, and yeah, really so much learning from you. And
Yeah,
the thesis,
exactly.
yeah, it's really, matlab, we know, Diksha and us know we are behind the scenes. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, it's really amazing, Krishna. And for me, I haven't seen thesis like this, and I'm remembering the comments uh, in the Dayanand College of Architecture where I've seen you. I
Oh,
haven't
okay.
seen any thesis of undergraduate. We have been go there for the COA documentation. So I was just remembering the word.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, yeah. The word there is a some I think some will relate, some will agree, some will not agree. They say that the undergraduate thesis should be more of design and less of research, and the postgraduate thesis should be more of research and less of design. They are just comparing. But what I see in your work is 100% research, 100% design beyond its. Matlab, the illustrations are so superb, maintaining the hand, hand feel, and it's really amazing. Krishna, so much learning from you. I think because in the audience also we had some fourth year students. Most are from, I think, I don't know. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Second year and third years also. So
yes.
they are going to learn a lot from you, how to make these drawings, and yeah,
Thank
so,
you. Thank you so much.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
kind.
Yeah, the presentation was quite explaining and it was very detailed actually. So now, if anyone has any question, you can ask. But firstly, I would also like to ask some questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, my question is that how can young architects or like students like us can approach socially sensitive topics like these without being insensitive
Uh,
towards the communities?
Yeah, yeah. So that was also like a very big challenge of mine. Also, like for me, thesis was basically in Mumbai University. We have 6 months of research. So like in the first 9 semester, we have like 13 other subjects going on. But also at the same semester, we do research for our the dissertation research. And during that period, at the end of when I had to present my topic, and we have at the end of it, you have to present your research and basically what you're gonna design in the next semester, what is the program for your building. And then I had really sort of deviated away from what I wanted to do. And then so the jurors, they were really happy with the research that I had done, but she knew about the topic, and she had read about all this, and she was very she got like actually angry with whatever solutions that I had proposed back then, because she said that my view was too westernized, and I was not understanding the context fully. And that's why like my whatever I was proposing to intervene would feel very forced in the context, and it won't work at all. So I was really disheartened. But when I came back the next semester, so what I then did was I went back and understood the history of the practice that was happening. That is when I came. That is when I really studied ki how did this practice actually start. Because during my interviews, I had not gotten anything from the community there, so I had no knowledge of that. But then I read books and I understood the history of how where it came from, and then the understanding really shifted towards ki okay, it made sense back then, but it doesn't make sense today, and they have not still evolved. And then about the program, then that is when programmatically also key what should I do that that it doesn't it's not controversial as you're seeing. Then that is where the UNESCO framework, I started reading into what UNESCO, what World Health Organization, what is happening in African countries regarding these issues. And back from them, when I adopted those frameworks and I viewed my program around that framework, is then when like my faculties started saying, okay, this is okay. Or when I went to other guides in my college to say if even they were convinced. I talked to my friends. I talked to all the girls in my class regarding, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what I think might work. And so then I had to talk to a lot of people basically to get conviction that what I'm doing is sort of in a right direction. So yeah, but so to answer your question briefly, stick to like what large organizations are doing, what government is doing, what NGOs are doing. So then yeah, you can like build a bridge off of that information.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The people of the community might have also been challenging.
Yeah, actually, so I approached. So when I read on the internet about this issue, I also read about an NGO who are actively working in that region. They're called Sparsh. It's by Dr. Dilip Barsagade. So I contacted him, and then for me, that was also inspiring. That even there on site, there's a man who is working on all these issues. So I contacted him. Then he was really helpful. Then he sent me all the research that he had done. Then he invited me to Gadchiroli. When I went to Gadchiroli, the staff from the NGO came with me. They took me to these villages, and through them, because they already had a rapport with the community, I was able to talk to the women who were going through this. I was able to see the actual period huts. I was able to document them. Then they encouraged me to talk to even the men. Yeah, even my faculty had told me. My thesis mentor, she's a woman, Padnavi ma'am. She had specifically told me, Krishna, don't come back without talking to the men in the village. So I talked to them. I understood their perspective also, and yeah, the NGO really helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I also had a couple of questions. I
Yes.
just say कि guys please ask. Nothing. मतलब Krishna is so friendly. You can ask anything,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Even if you
So
don't agree.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. I think I'll just ask the questions. Maybe they can have a common question. Uh,
Hmm.
in the initial slides, there is a slide of that which is having like a very comic and storytelling kind of view. Can
Hmm,
you
hmm,
just
hmm.
go to on that slide, Diksha?
Which
Yeah.
one?
It's in the
I think
beginnings.
10th, 11th.
Wait.
They're hand-drawn sketches. It's like a comic book style. Go back,
Yeah,
go
yeah,
back.
yeah.
In the beginning.
Yeah, like around mid, like slide 10 or 11.
Yeah, you can go one by one. We can help you.
Uh, slide 11. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So I think can you just describe this?
Hmm.
Diksha, can you zoom in some
Yeah, wait.
instead of
Hmm.
full screen? You can zoom in part by part. So it's a very good way to present the thing. It's
Yeah.
gonna help a lot of students.
Hmm.
This.
Yeah. So this is basically an exercise that you call storyboarding, where you basically
Yeah,
imagine a
Diksha,
narrative.
can
And
you zoom in? Uh, okay, we can
Oh,
zoom in individually. Yeah.
wait.
Okay, okay.
yeah, so where you imagine a narrative.
Wait. This.
Yeah, where you basically imagine a narrative and then you draw little of how the architecture would look around it. So back then it was like this idea was key to what all I want to put in the program, I had to imagine what if menstruation or periods were not a taboo, and what if it was very normal in the society. So how in the community, so how it would look like. So if you see uh, in the first, like the presentation is very primitive. Like basically the red shading that I've given to the girl represent that she's on her period. So basically in the house, if you see in the first sketch, the mother is taking her care, like she's braiding her hair or something, and the father is out there who's picking from the drying line a reusable sanitary napkin so that she can pack it in her bag and take it to the school. Then in the second slide, the younger sibling is handing over that sanitary napkin to the girl who's going to the school. Keep pack it, you might need a change. Then in the third slide, the father of the house tells the mother that I have a menstrual hygiene management class in the evening. So I'll take the younger daughter. So it's basically that events that there are events in the community which are happening to educate the younger children and men of the community. Then in the fourth slide, there's basically she goes to the school and she has some period pain. Then she goes to the medical room of the school and they ask her to take rest. Uh, then while she's going to the village, there's the old Kurmagar has been converted into an incinerator, which is basically a facility to dispose of used sanitary napkins. Then in the fifth slide, the women's tapri is there, the women's shop is there where the women is selling some stuff and other women are sitting at the tapri on the street. Uh, yeah, then in the sixth slide, two men are discussing about the menstrual infrastructure, about the healthcare infrastructure of the community. Uh, then, yeah, so like it's basically that this is how the story is imagined if it was if it was a positive norm in the entire community, how it would look like. And then from that, like the idea of the women's shop came from this sketch. Then so what all facilities I need to add in the women's house, what all facilities I need to add in the healthcare center, it all came from here.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Thank you so much. There is a one matrix you have made. So
Hmm.
I just also want to talk about uh, how do you, well, it's a matrix which we can make for any thesis, and well, can you just talk a little about the metrics we can use in our architectural projects? Maybe could be in third year, fourth year, or any year, or even
Yes,
in a dissertation. Yeah.
yes, yes. It's on the next slide.
This one?
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Yeah, so on the left hand side is are the six pillars, which is privacy, menstrual hygiene management, then wash, which is water sanitation hygiene. You were on the correct slide, yeah. Then disposal knowledge and positive social norms. Then the first cell is the area of what area do I want to address. One was healthcare, which is your healthcare infrastructure, which is your clinic, your hospital, your Asha clinic, your maternity waiting home. Then the second area was well-being. The third area was awareness. The fourth area was regarding products. The fifth area was hygiene. Sixth was gender stake of how maybe do I need to give like a private space for women to just contemplate, or maybe give a space for men to come. And the third was equity, that how do I imbibe equity into the community. So then so that is the that is the y axis, these 6 7 areas in which I want to intervene. And then the y axis is basically, do I intervene at the smaller village, do I intervene at the health facility, or do I intervene directly at the exile column is basically, do I intervene directly with the period hut. The fourth one is, do I build something temporal, or fifth is rural generation, which was basically improvement of the village, or adding infrastructure to the village, like basically urban design but for village. So then I've like listed, so in healthcare in the village, what can I do? Can I build an Asha clinic? In awareness, can I build a heritage and education gallery where the history of the community is showed in a gallery? Or can I build a period positivity craft center? Or in the gender stake, can I build a copra, which literally means a corner, it's like a private space for women to contemplate? or do I build a creche so that while women go to work, the children are taken care of and they have more opportunities of work or doing whatever they want, apart from taking care of the children. Then again, in the healthcare, in the health facility, I add a maternity waiting home. In the health facility, in under the products, do I add a sanitary napkin production facility? In the gender stake in the health facility, do I add a father's dorm? So like that, I had built up the matrix, and then from there, I had picked up like two, three things, and then this is when the so matrix was done in order to prepare. Select key, out of all the things that I can think of, which one should I do? But then when I curated it, I realized, okay, एक चीज से काम नहीं चलेगा, one thing won't work. Will need two, three things, and that's why then I started to intervene at like three levels. One is the village, the health facility, and then the temporal aspect.
Yeah. Yes, thanks. Uh, yeah, another question of mine is,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. What are the after I think after seeing the your thesis, what are the reviews by the judges, the jurors? What
Okay.
are their comments? Yeah.
Yeah, so you saw the Bangalore jury, but the zonal level jury, which happened in
No, I haven't saw the jury. I haven't just saw you in the final.
okay,
The what?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the zonal jury, which happened in Mumbai, was a more sort of interactive and like there were a lot of comments from the jury's side. So as far as I remember, most of them were positive. And then one this thing was regarding how does a project, how does an intervention of this scale, like if you have to do something of this scale in Mumbai, which is for maybe for an urban crowd, it would be very easy to get it built or something. But then this is for a very primitive community. Why would the government or why would anybody invest in building all this? What would be basically the financial model of it? And while working on the project, the complexity of the project was itself so much that I could not really go and delve into figuring out the financial aspect, financial model of it. But basically, one answer I had is there's this one NGO called Navya Naveli Foundation. So they have built new period huts. So their solution or their approach was ki, okay, they are isolating the period huts that they are currently isolating are in a very bad condition. What if we build slightly better ones? So they have uh, I think they have built about two, three, and they're spending about 6 to 8 lakhs per hut in like building a new hut. So in the village that I was intervening in, full body, there were 8 existing huts which were required for these 240 women of the village. So then if you like kind of divide 8 into 6, which becomes like 8 into 8, like which becomes about 64 lakhs. So then a facility of this scale, then you like that it becomes realizable if that you see that okay the numbers kind of do add up. And then one of my other answers was that's why I have built the wall as a form aggregator which connects these units. So in the first phase with the first funding only, like say the rest unit could be built, then in the second one we add the local health unit, then at the third stage you add the emancipation unit. So it becomes incremental like that, and still like the design of it and the spatial intent of it is achieved. So yeah, that was one thing. Then in the Bangalore jury, actually there was like not much constructive that came out of it. I mean, their questions were pretty generic regarding my planning and anything, nothing that I think actively contributes to the point I was trying to make. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Thank you.
Hmm.
I think another common question of all the students would be, how did you, what are the software you have used in the all this amazing drawings and amazing illustrations?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think they all are interested in listening to that also.
Yeah. If you could go to one of the drawings, Deeksha.
Yeah. Wait, which one's that?
I think you should go in the end slides, which are just showing the uh, cut
Hmm.
plan axonometric view with the very less opacity of the roof. In the last slide.
Last. Wait.
Last, yeah.
This.
So yeah, I had done the modeling on Rhino, and then so these drawings that you see, the modeling is done on Rhino. So I exported like a line drawing of it from rhino, and then the trees, some of them are sketched. Like I use sketchbook. I had a graphic tablet, so I've sketched the trees and the humans on it, and some of them are just like pngs brought from the internet. But the each and every human, so my challenge when I was preparing the drawings was the activities that I wanted to show these women doing, because they are pregnant ladies. There is like a pregnant couple there. There's a women cycling. There are little girls playing, and so these humans were not available on the internet, so I had to sketch each and every human figure with the intent that I wanted to show, because for me it was very important कि किस space में क्या activity हो रही है. So I've sketched each and every human being, and it's like the post production, the editing is done on sketchbook, Autodesk sketchbook.
Yeah, got it. I
Yeah,
think it's similar to Photoshop and Illustrator.
yeah. uh, but the base model is rhino, like the building is rhino, and the rest everything is like either sketched or pngs from the internet.
Yeah, I think I just also want to talk about the basic myths or misconception in our, well, in basic, when we do the thesis, there
Hmm.
is a, obviously, some seniors will say ki instead of taking affordable housing, you should take some five-star hotel or some fancy project.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
again, seeing from your project, I think
Hmm.
it should be very clear from that myth or something ki it's not about the, ki you are doing some fancy housing or whatever, very matlab, maybe making the final thesis model of 15,000 or laser
Yeah,
cutting, all these
yeah.
things. So the thing is he you can see from the Krishna's work how he has done the research, how there is a total aspect of practicality and how it's contributing to the society from matlab, how you are bring a change in the society from, yeah, that's a, yeah, Krishna, you should
Yeah.
say something.
I would say, I mean, it's about while choosing thesis, you should choose what you want to do, what you like. Because, during my internship was right before a thesis. So I was working in a very design intensive firm. And back then, I was working on these very high end, luxurious projects. And in those 6 months, I realized, okay, I don't want to do this. And that's like I wanted to do something which contributes to society, and that's why during thesis I decided to choose a socially inclined topic. I just thought that I would do something in the rural context, maybe for children or for women. And then as I did my research, it I started going into, like, by each review, my faculty would say, each review you're making your topic more and more complex. And that is something that happened with me. But if you're interested in something else, like for example, one of my classmates, she uh, design her thesis was about designing for the ultra rich. So her site was in Dubai. She did a very fancy high scraper and all that, and she did a very good project because that was what her calling was. Then she did one of my friend, he did his thesis on Kolhapur's buffalo and dairy industry. So that is where he come from. That is what he knew of, and he built, like, his project was called cattle crash. He had built a crash facility for buffaloes of Kolhapur, and that was also pretty interesting. And that is what he knew of. So basically, whatever calls to you, whatever you know more, whatever you would not mind working on for 1 year, do that.
Yeah. uh, yeah, again, the you talk about the UNESCO and book reading. So yeah, matlab, I want to say ki when we also again club with this question also ki since your topic is sometimes if we select such topic in the phase we are in the phase ki should I change the topic or should I reduce this, matlab, how did you navigate through this thing?
Yeah, so that happened to me also. Because initially, when we had to choose our topic, I had a very old faculty in our panel who was supposed to help us with deciding our topics, and he was like, "Why do you want to build a community? Why do you want to do something rural? You're like a good student. Design like a high-rise building in Prabhadevi." And all that happened. Then he told me that if community centers could help change the world, then सब लोग community center ही बनाते हैं, ऐसा नहीं होता है. Like, he tried to convince me otherwise, but I don't know, I had the conviction. And the more some older faculty that I did not like rejected the topic, the more interested I got in pursuing it, and I was like, yeah, I'll show you. So yeah, that happened with me. So if you are really convinced about it, then then like you have to go at it. Even if it
Yeah,
doesn't work, even if it doesn't work, it's fine. But if you are convinced about it, you should do it.
yeah, it's a challenge actually.
Yes.
Yeah, challenging yourself. Yeah, I think for the, can you just talk about the design also? I know it's not much of the importance, but they are some second or third year students. They are right now in designing. I think now I don't know what they are doing. There some they are designing on contours. Some they are designing with multi something. You know, I don't know.
Yeah, second years are designing contour right now.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
School on
For
contours.
school
Okay.
on contours.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
third year.
third year.
No one
Anyone
is
from
from third
you?
year. Okay, okay. No issue. Yeah,
All of
it could be
like,
really helpful.
yeah, yeah.
Your
So the hospital, the second health center site had some contours, but it was not very steep. But for me, it was just a 3 or 4 meter level difference, but that was still a challenge because in a healthcare center the circulation is very critical because like the stretchers have to move and even the staff has to move around. So if you could go to the site plan of the healthcare center, it is on say 23rd slide, I think.
Hmm,
20 slide number 22, yeah.
okay.
Mm.
Yeah, this.
Uh-huh. So so parallel to the road towards the water body is where my contours were going. So what I had done was because I had to keep the corridor, the circulation at one level, the central corridor that goes through the hospital, like right from the entry end towards the uh, parenting unit, that I had kept on one contour, and then half of my building where the wards are towards the water body, they were half of them were on stilts, and then where the surgery theater is, the backside which is towards the road, half of it was like kind of I was cutting into the site and I had placed it there. So and then so the main hospital was entirely on one level through either stilts or cutting into the contours. But then as you move into the next zones, like when you move in towards the parenting home, which is like the first courtyard, there you step down by a level, and then when you move towards the next courtyard, which is where like I'm saying these names but you guys not aware of what is what, but like the towards the end of the left hand side edge of the plan, that is, it is at the lowest level, so the hospital kind of steps like that along the contours, and then I had created these courtyards through which the seasonal stream could also flow. So first, like try to balance your cut and fill when you're designing on contours, and be mindful like if your site is too steep or if there's any water flow that is happening, then try to see how you can accommodate that as well. Like plan your units around that so that no natural water flow is hindered. Yeah, if you want to do minimal disturbance, then do stills. If you want to create submerged spaces, then like go with like nice stone retaining walls, and yeah, like, that could be your design language. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's in the fourth year we had a right now we had a dissertation which we had to document a settlement and we had
Mhm.
sent the settlement and all. So since
Hmm.
you had done a settlement, what other things you want to say while um, choosing for the topic of settlement, or how we can proceed to the documentation of settlement or something?
So I mean, if when our faculties choose any settlement for us to document, I mean they generally choose something like which is very unique or has some culture of it. Like when we did our documentation in first year, we went to a temple town in Karnataka. Then our seniors went to a coastal fishery town in Konkan. Then one of our other seniors, they had gone to a craft town in Odisha. So I mean, what is the essential whatever gene of your settlement? What why is your settlement unique? Maybe it may be like for some art, some heritage, some temple, or if it's a river settlement, if it's a sea coastal settlement, like that. What is unique about it? You try to understand that, and then capture stories around it, and then from there, if you find anything which is interesting to you, or maybe like just there's a very old nice building, or there's a site which is close to the river which is very interesting, whatever, can start with that.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think maybe some other can ask the question. I just want to say uh, we can have more events with Krishna because we haven't touched in this today when the internship because Krishna has done the internship in also a very great firm, Samipador and Architects, and
yeah,
also right now he is also working in a good firm, Bhumiputra Architects. So that could be another story for the, I think the fifth years wants to listen to that. We can have some another day for that. And I think we are also, I'm not, I won't take the permission from Krishna. We also, maybe in the future, we can have some illustration workshop from you. Yeah, yeah, it's really good to
For
learn
sure.
from you. Yeah,
yeah, sure.
yeah. Yeah. Over to you, Rick.
So very helpful and insightful session actually.
Yeah,
And thank you so much for like sharing your work and journey with us.
yeah,
Today's talk actually reminded us that architecture goes beyond buildings and structures. It like engages with people, beliefs, and responsibilities that we also have as an architect or designers. So, prescriptions for parity encourages us. This thesis actually encourages us to question what we accept as normal, to and to think about how space can respond with care and dignity rather than just exclusion. So, if anyone does not have any questions, like you explained it with so much detail, I don't think anyone might be having some questions.
yeah,
So I would like to end it here and thank you once again, Krishna, for letting like show your work to us. So
yeah.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much everyone for joining today and have a great evening.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. It was lovely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Diksha, for asking.
Okay.
Yeah, and Afan for recording the session. Afan, I think you have recorded it perfectly, no? Okay, okay. Perfect, perfect. Take it. Okay, bye.